let's welcome our esteemed guest to Market Mondays. How's it going?
Good morning. It's off to a good start today.
For sure.
Indeed,
For sure.
indeed. It's
For
really
sure.
honor.
So, John W. Rogers Jr., the chairman and co-CEO of Ariel Investments, and an asset management firm, and it's historic because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first African American asset management firm that was founded in the United States of America, the largest Black-owned mutual fund in the United States of America, and just been a trailblazer for decades in not only our community but in the investment world. And I actually was introduced to this. So I was a financial advisor before I became a media talking head, and my dad actually told me about you guys. He's actually been putting people in your fund for a very long time. He told me to tell you that, and he told me about you guys early on in my financial planning career. And I've followed Ariel funds for a very long period of time. So it's great to have you on the program today. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity and excited that you guys have been shareholders in Ariel Mutual Funds. It's something that it's very important to get Black leaders and the entire community engaged in our funds. It's really exciting.
For sure. So we have a lot to talk about as far as economics and your philosophy on investing and stuff like that. But I want to get the backstory, right? I know this started with you receiving shares of stock when you were, I believe, in Ivy League. You went to Princeton?
I did.
So can you tell a story about your family's history and how Ariel got started and how you became in the chair that you're in now?
Well, thank you. I've got sort of, I've been very, very fortunate. I had two extraordinary parents, and they all came from sort of entrepreneurial backgrounds. My dad's father was a barber in Knoxville, Tennessee. My dad was an original Tuskegee Airman and flew over 100 missions in World War II. He decided that when I was age 12 that he was going to expose me to the stock market. He went to law school on the GI Bill and had a small law practice. He never got it very large, but he was out there, fighting hard to grow clients and build his business. And I watched that. But at the same time, he wanted me exposed to the stock market. And every Christmas and every birthday after I was 12, I got stock certificates instead of toys. And at first, that wasn't a lot of fun, but it was a great idea. And then he introduced me to his stockbroker, the first African-American stockbroker on LaSalle Street here in Chicago, a man named Stacy Adams. And Stacy became my mentor and my role model. On my mom's side, my mom was the first African-American woman to graduate from the University of Chicago Law School in 1946. And she said she was inspired to become a lawyer because she watched her father use his legal skills to stop my great-grandfather from being extradited back to Tulsa after the race massacre. My great-grandfather, J.B. Stratford, owned the largest Black-owned hotel in the country at the time.
Oh, that's your great-grandfather?
Yes.
So when we went to Tulsa, not to interrupt, when we went to Tulsa and they gave us a tour of Black Wall Street, and they actually told us about your grandfather.
Well, yeah, I was just, I was in Tulsa several times now recently, and there during the centennial year, and he was someone who was out fighting for economic justice for our community, fighting the Jim Crow rules and laws, and he was a stand-up pioneer, very successful, and his son C.F. Stratford started the first Black Bar Associations in the country, helped fight the restrictive covenants here in Chicago, and helped Earl B. Dickerson with the case at the Supreme Court, Hansberry versus Lee. So long story short, I was just lucky to have these pioneering parents and families that cared about building Black wealth. That was really key. And so I've inherited that mission.
So you're given stocks as a gift. At what point do you start to figure out which equities you want to invest in? Because I know Ariel starts at the age of 24. Correct me if I'm wrong. What did you start developing your own investment strategy at around that time, or at what point are you figuring this out?
It was kind of a journey. When I was 18, my father turned the portfolio over to me, and I had a broker right across the street from campus, and I would sit and talk with him about the markets, and he showed me where to go to Firestone Library to read newsletters and learn about the markets in a different way. And then I was fortunate in corporate finance at Princeton. We had to read a book called A Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burt Malkiel.
Awesome.
It's one of the classics and one of the greatest books of all time. And he was the head of the economics department at Princeton. And I went to see Professor Malkiel during that time, and we stayed in touch over these last 45 years or so. And I learned then about the idea that crowds can get out of control and groupthink can take over, and everyone chases what's worked yesterday. He talks a lot about the great bubbles that have occurred within the world's history, and again, how people can lose their minds at different types of the market, either be overly excited about the markets or overly fearful. And so it started me thinking about being a value-oriented contrarian investor. And again, that book had a profound impact. And of course, I started to read other books on the market, started to read about value investors like Warren Buffett. And they helped me develop that investment strategy that I had during the sort of 2 years between college and starting Ariel.
As a contrarian investor, what do you think of the global macro picture right now, and what opportunities do you see that most people are not talking about?
Well, it's one of the key things. We are very much believers in being long-term investors. Our tortoise is, the tortoise is our logo, to remind people that old Aesop's fable, slow and steady wins the race. Mm-hmm. We want to buy companies we can own for the long run, and try not to get too tied up in the local, the macro things. What's going to happen with interest rates next week? What's going on with unemployment and inflation? We're aware of it, but we often believe that the markets are going to go higher and over time. And Warren Buffett always reminds us that last century, the Dow Jones started at 66 and ended at over 11,000. Yes. And that last century, we had 2 world wars, Great Depression, many recessions, a pandemic. Our capitalist democracy somehow finds a way to march forward. And so we try to be long-term. I know one of the things that's fun to talk about, you talk about a little bit about basketball, but, our favorite stock right now is Madison Square Garden Entertainment. It owns the Garden. And, the Garden is rocking these days with Jalen Brunson and the Knicks doing so extraordinarily well. And so we own the 2 publicly traded companies that are affiliated with the Knicks. The MSGE, Madison Square Garden Entertainment, owns the Garden. And then Madison Square Garden Sports owns the Knicks and the Rangers, the teams themselves.
So, yes, the Knicks. Wow. Finally.
Go New York, New York.
We have something
good.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch. They compete. They play so hard.
For sure.